Hello and welcome to the Backtracking episode proper for today. We start with the band's debut album, Ecclesia, released in 2008. It would come out through Face Down Records and it was produced by Jamie King. I covered most of the background for this album prior, but there is a version of this album with the band's old lead singer. However, I listened to the version with Matty Montgomery, which starts with an intro track and then goes to the first actual song, Infantry. Instrumentally, it's more melodic than I thought it would be, and there's some really good guitar sweeps that accompany the heavy drumming wonderfully. The lyrics do cover the typical themes of hope and faith, but there's nice enough emotion to them, even if it feels a bit similar to older ground. The performance is good, with the band showing some solid timing and Ryan Leach having amazing work on lead guitar. The production can feel a bit undercooked, but it's still brought across well and helps the album sound where it can. The structuring is meaty as I like personally, with some great closing moments to the songs and some nicely layered pacing to help things along. My favourite song goes to Redemption. Ecclesia isn't flawless, but it's got a lot of sweat and passion to it that I can't fault, and the band really do make the most out of it. Next is the band's second album, Portraits, released in 2009. It came out through the same label as Last Time, and it was produced by the same person as well. So I didn't really get a lot of background for this album, mostly because it's only 1 year after Ecclesia, so yeah, there really wasn't even a lineup change. That being said, let's move on to the first song on the album, Emmanuel the Challenger, a short opener which then goes straight to Saul of Tarsus, the Messenger. And before you ask, yes, each song on the album has a second title in brackets, so, that's why I was doing that. The album's instrumental work is again melodic, but there's more of a heavy breakdown focus and the rest meshed together a bit tighter too. The lyrics embrace a much darker lilt, talking about topics like religious politics and more in a very sort of well thought out way. The performances are still solid with good chemistry again, and Matty sounds a bit more confident on the mic this time around. The production is improved as well, boosting up the sound and giving a more layered vibe to the direction, and the structuring almost copies and pastes their debut, but there's more impact to things despite this album being almost 10 minutes shorter. My favourite song goes to Ezekiel the Visionary. Portrait sees the band taking steps forward, and while they are just steps, they're definitely the right ones to take. Next up is the band's third album, Breaker, released in 2010. It came out through Face Down again, but it was produced by Will Putney this time around. Again, I don't have any background and there's no new members that joined, so let's just do what the band did and get right to the album, which starts with the intro track, The Breaker's Origin, which then bleeds into first proper song, Devastator, and what a 1-2 punch to start the album. The instrumental work is a lot more timed out and deliberate, also way faster and technical. The lyrics have a solid focus on the religious themes, adding stuff like openness and justice as good topics, and the performances are again great, and dang it, Ryan Leach is a fantastic guitarist. He's viciously underrated, honestly. The production is such a huge step forwards too, because they got Will Putney on this album. Will Putney is one of the best to ever do it, and the structuring has also improved in strength, building things up better, and often adding some great closing moments to the songs. My favourite song goes to White Flag. Breaker comes across as a much bigger album for the band, and considering it was their last on Face Down, it's a great note to go out on for that label. Next is the band's fourth album, Immortal. Released in 2012, it was their first through Razor and Tie, and it was produced by Will Putney once again. Once more, not really a lot of new stuff to cover except for the label change and some touring, so let's just really try and move on. The album starts with another double song combo of spoken word intro of The King and the first proper song, Fearless, so let's talk about that. Strangely, it goes for a more heavy route, and the riffs have a more cutting sort of vibe to them with faster work, which I like. The lyrics have still those hopeful themes going over things like apathy, violence and belief of self with a more optimistic tone. Performances are great again, with all the band members putting in great work, and Matty especially ties it up on the mic. Production wise, it's maybe the best they've yet sounded, with Will proving why he's so good at getting the most out of the genre. The structuring is a lot tighter as well, again, with the pacing really driving the sound home wonderfully and leaving so few scraps of fat on the meat. My favourite song goes to Set Apart, featuring Jake Liz from August Burns Red. Immortal is the band's most cohesive piece of work, and it's super heavy, brilliantly executed, and really sharply played out. Next is the band's fifth album, Fight the Silence, released in 2014. It came out through the same label as Last Time, and it's produced by Will Putney once more. There really wasn't a lot of info that I could gather for this album, except that it's their first and only album with rhythm guitarist Sam Penna, so let's move on to the album which breaks tradition by starting with an actual song in Molotov. I know, I was actually quite shocked too. Anyway, the instrumental work really feels closer to their second album with good underlying melodies and some really nice and heavy drum work, and the lyrics have a good tone as well, with topics like abuse, speaking out political wrongs, and honestly it's nothing new, but it does work for the band. The performances slug it out pretty hard too, with everyone going in and delivering some really good work that I always appreciate. The production is a bit cleaner, with Will working overtime to make the album sound as good as it does, with some really nice processing effects, and the structuring can feel maybe a little bit repetitive, but it does build up nicely for the most part. It has like a really good core sound to stick to. Favorite song goes to One Voice. Fight the Silence is a good continuation for the band, with plenty of solid songs, good work put in, and some gosh dang nice production to boot. And finally is the band's sixth and final album, Wake. Released in 2015, it would be the band's only album through Nuclear Blast, with Will Putney producing it once again. It's also their only album as a quartet, even though bassist Jim Hughes would sort of be part of it. It's a confusing situation, so let's just move on to the first song titled No Truth and No Sacrifice, and holy shit. The instrumentation is some of the biggest they've ever done, rife with solid melodies and some really thick and punchy bass and drum work. The lyrics cover topics of war, human nature, life and more political leaning stuff, all handled pretty carefully and put in a really fresh perspective. The performances are again fantastic, with the band showing amazing timing and putting in a lot of energy into things. The production is phenomenal again, with Will working his hands to the bone and all the editing being top notch to boot, and the structuring is greatly balanced with its harmonies, building up well and exploding out at the right times with some really incredible breakdowns. My favourite song goes to Determination. For a final album, it's a great ending to the band's journey, with plenty of heavy moments, solid weight and damn good emotion to the songs. So that'll about do it. That's another episode of Backtracking in the Bag. The first one in 2022, one of the last ones I'll ever be doing as well, because still got about 7 more left to go through. I had quite the journey with this one though, because as I said in my very brief history video, I wasn't the biggest fan of them. I don't know if it's just because I wasn't as big a fan of the heavy styles of music as I am now, and I thought they were too heavy for me at the time, but it turns out no, they're just right in my wheelhouse. It's just I think I've grown up enough to appreciate it more. And by the way, usually I do script these outros for Backtracking, but this year I'm not doing it because it's the last season. It's the last time you're going to really see any of it, so screw it, this is all like off the top of my head. But yes, I did enjoy doing this episode so much, I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, the band honestly had a really incredible journey, and considering they weren't around for too terribly long, they did really impress me, and they put out albums really, really quick as well, so the fact that they are able to improve that fast over that many albums is really cool. Anyway, I can't really think of much else to say. Next episode will be Wardruna, as requested by my friend Selk, and then after that, well, I was going to say, no, not the next Backtracking episode after that. After this, when this goes up. Yeah, tonight, PBW versus AVW. Another episode to go. And then next thing I'll see you for might be another episode of Music of the Week. So, that's really all I have left to say. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.